is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be reacting to what Patricia had to say about day one of Detroit Lions training camp with pads. Let's get it started. Welcome everybody to another video. Glad you guys are here, and today I think we have a pretty cool episode. Okay, I like watching these interviews and getting my takeaways, especially when it comes from Patricia, because obviously Patricia is the head coach, and it's really interesting to see how he feels and what he thinks about a lot of things. And sometimes you can find little hidden gems. I mean, yes, for the most part, you're gonna hear coaches talk, and you're gonna hear him not give a lot of answers away, and he's not gonna just tell you things straight up. But that's his job. He's protecting his players. He's protecting himself. That's his job as the head coach. I completely understand. But if you do dig deep enough and you listen close enough, sometimes he does give away a few little gems. And I think there's definitely always some entertaining things that you could take away from Patricia, and you can really see how he feels and how he feels that things are going. And I think I have the perfect comment of the day. So unfortunately we don't have the whiteboard, but I did see this comment in my last video. It came from my guy Jay So Wavy. He said this: the vibe feels different this year. Now, there was more to this comment for sure, and I know some people are saying, well, we say this every year that the vibe feels different, but I actually kind of agree with him. Like, the vibe feels different for the Detroit Lions on the field. And I think Patricia, if you watch his interview, the vibe felt different with Patricia. So I think that comment just fits perfectly with what we're going to be talking about in today's video. So we're just going to be looking at the main takeaways that I took away from his interview. Okay, we're just going to touch on a few things, focus on some other things. So let's just get right into it. Now, we talked about a lot of these things in our last video about the training camp day one takeaways. So he talked about a lot of things that we talked about, which is great. So we kind of reinforced some of our answers, and we got maybe new answers to some questions that we had. For example, when we talked about Jonah Jackson potentially being the starter at the right guard position, and he basically really praised Jonah Jackson, saying things like he's a very mature player and he handles that transition very well. And that goes back to when he went from Rutgers to Ohio State, which is a huge transition, obviously, to go from one college to another college to play better competition. He's still playing the same teams. They're still in the Big Ten, but to play with Ohio State and start Ohio State is probably a little bit more challenging than Rutgers. Not to take anything away from Rutgers. There's definitely a different level of football going on in Ohio State from Rutgers. So that was a huge transition on its own, and that's what they like about Jonah Jackson. He's a very mature player, and that's kind of what I see with Jonah. I see a very polished player that can step in day one. And again, he was a third-round pick, and when you look at Graham Glasgow, he was also a third-round pick. We know he was really good for us when he was here. So that's kind of what I see with Jonah Jackson as well, a guy that seems like a very polished, mature type of player that can start day one. So he definitely praised him a little bit. He talked about possibly rotating these guys and seeing different players out there. Like, it's just day one. He doesn't know who the starters are yet, which was actually kind of funny, because when they asked him next about Amani and whether or not Amani was going to be the starter, because he had the first team reps, Okudah was with the backups, which we talked about, which some people look at as a big deal, some people don't. Either way, we know it's early in training camp. We don't really have final answers yet. But Patricia said this: he's not going to get into who the starters are or anything like that, because he doesn't know yet. Other than Matthew Stafford, he really doesn't know, and that's pretty much facts. And I think that's definitely how it should be. You got to leave that stuff a little bit up in the air. I mean, sure, in the back of your mind, you kind of have an idea of where things are going to lay out, but you still need to keep things out there and let players earn them. And that's, again, how Patriots, how Lions, and Patricia are always going to do things, right? You're going to start at the bottom, and you're going to work their way up. Now, with Jonah Jackson and Jeffrey Okudah and all the other rookies, he's looking to kind of work them into things slowly, especially with a shortened offseason. You haven't been on the field much at all. I mean, finally, you're getting pads on, and you have 4 weeks until the football season starts. He's trying to work them in a little bit slower, but I'm sure the pace is going to be different than usual because, obviously, of a weird offseason. So I don't exactly know how it's going to change it. He did say there's going to be actually a couple more practice days, so I can see him trying to kind of ease them into it, learn the system, because I think at the end of the day, that's probably what takes the longest. We know these players are talented, and yes, there's probably little things you can clean up here and there, but I think a lot of it is confidence and learning the system, and that's what Jeffrey Okudah is kind of going through. That's what Jonah Jackson's going through, along with the rest of the rookies. So, yes, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, well, hold up, if Jonah's starting, why is Okudah not with the starters? And he said, yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. And I also do think it depends on the position. But we know Amani played well last season. And talking about Amani, he said Amani picked up where he left off from last season. It's a big plays at the end. His transition when a ball would come his way to jump on routes, to kind of be more of a physical corner when he came to Detroit, kind of change up how he would play defensively from Penn State to Detroit. He picked up really well near the end of the season when he was comfortable, and he thinks he's continuing to build on that and play well. So obviously he should start there because, again, he earned it last year, so he should start as that guy with the nod. But again, like the Lions defense, it's great to have many good corners because all of these guys are going to see the field. I mean, I'm telling you right now, Amani's going to see the field. Maybe not as much as Okudah does, or maybe not the other way around. I think Okudah's going to start, by the way. But, maybe not as much, but they're all going to see the field. Darryl Roberts is going to get out there. Justin Coleman's going to get out there because you need all of these cornerbacks in this defense. And yes, there's going to be injuries. As much as I hate to say it, there will be injuries. Hopefully not anything serious, but they're going to come up time to time. It's going to knock players out, and you're going to have to put other guys in. And you need a reliable secondary. We've talked about this before, so it's great to have a deep cornerback group. So Wavy said, this is a very different vibe. It just feels different right now, and it feels different when you listen to Matt Patricia talk. He seems very excited, and of course you're going to be excited when you're back to football, but I mean, this just feels different with the players that he has. I feel like he's really getting confident with the personnel that he has on his roster, and I think that is a very big part because, look, hey man, you're struggling your first 2 years that went down. Now you got the pressure on you because Matthew Stafford went down. You got to win some football games. Let's go get the guys that I believe can win in this system, and I think that's what you're saying is that he's getting the guys that he believes can play well in this system. All right, now we're not going to get into anything with any of the other guys in today's video. A lot of people are like, hey, make a Darius Slay video. I don't know if you guys saw that clip or not on Twitter. I'm not going to get into it. Okay, I'm going to stay out of it, but I just thought I'd bring it up because a couple people told me to, but I'm not going to get into it. Talk about Kenny Golladay and potential extension with him. Of course, we know the Lions are going to try to extend Kenny Golladay. I mean, it'd be crazy not to. He didn't say, yeah, we're going to extend him, but I mean, he kind of just praised him the entire time. And he's like, that's something that, we'll take it day by day, and we want to work it out at some point. Yeah, he's going to extend Kenny Golladay. Let's be honest here. Unless he has some completely terrible year, he's going to extend Kenny Golladay. He's probably going to be back, which is obviously a great sign. He has earned that extension. So that's where some money's going to go to. We'll see about Taylor Decker. That's the bigger question for me right now is Taylor Decker. But Kenny Galladay's basically guaranteed at this point. He also touched on dagger time a little bit because we talked about it last video. TJ Hawkinson brought it up, and he basically said, it is kind of like what TJ talked about, closing out everything, closing out games, closing out the fourth quarter. And he says, they like to look at stats. They don't want to get too caught up in them, but they do like to look at last year's stats because they can kind of tell you the story. And, we've been doing that a lot recently with third downs, things like that. The Lions never being able to close off things. It's not like their defense was bad as a whole. They just couldn't get off the field. And I think that does come with veteran leadership. You have players out there that you believe in, that you trust. And I didn't think we necessarily had that. I talked about that again before, but he brought up, closing fourth quarters, closing games out is somewhere they have to improve as a team. And you know what? He's right. Brought up that, how many games they led in the fourth quarter. He didn't know exactly how many, but, he brought up, hey, we know we could have won some games at the end. We led in the fourth quarter because even though some people don't want to look at those as important stats, they're definitely important stats. When you're leading in the fourth quarter and then you're losing the game every time, that's definitely important, okay? That's something that needs to be fixed as a team. And especially when Matthew Stafford's not there, that leader to take you over the top, sometimes that can get exposed. And it's almost a good thing that that's exposed because now you know that you had weaknesses there and that needs to be fixed. So obviously that's going to be a huge part of next season. Rotating guards. And this is something I think we could see at the left guard spot like we did last year with Joe Dahl and Kenny Wiggins, because I think right guard Jonah will be the starter, but left guard, we don't know yet, right? Will Stenberg step in that role? Will he not? I think Joe Dahl's kind of the favorite right now, but I can see them once again going to that rotating guards position. He said it's kind of weird, but he's been through before, just like their offensive line coach has, and it actually worked out well for them because when injuries did occur, these guys had reps, right? They had live game reps, and that's obviously a huge benefit. You don't really think about that. Yeah, if you got 6 guys playing the offensive line, you're gonna have an extra guy that's getting reps. So if injuries come up elsewhere, these guys aren't just coming in like, oh snap, I haven't played this year. Like, no, you've played on the field tons of times. You're rotating in and out. So now you're just playing a little bit of a different spot. I can see the Lions rotating left guard. I wouldn't be shocked, or even possibly the right guard, but I can see them rotating guards this year, at least maybe until someone takes it over. It says some teams like to have their starting 5 and know who those guys are, but he didn't seem like he said he needed to. He doesn't necessarily have a direct plan as of now on what they want to do with that, but it just kind of goes by comfort level. So how comfortable is he with making one guy the starter? Talk about Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who I said was basically the standout player of training camp today, at least on the defensive side, probably Marvin Jones as well. But he talked about Jalen Reeves-Maybin. He says he took tremendous strides. Ability on defense, how well he did against the run today, where he was able to recognize and kind of see the whole field, be part of the whole picture and not just his assignment. He says the game seems to be slowing down, especially with all the chances that he's getting on special teams. When he plays defense, the game's slowing down. And I think we can see a major big role from him on defense. I mean, he could be bigger than the roles he's ever had defensively. Like I said last video, this could be the time where he could step up and shine. And I think we could see a pretty big role from Jalen Reeves-Maybin this season. I mean, Matt Patricia has been really high on Jalen Reeves-Maybin pretty much this entire offseason, and I think we could see a nice little role. We saw him play well getting pass rush. He definitely has the pass rush moves in his arsenal. He's not afraid to show them, and you can tell he's been working on that. So Jalen Reeves-Maybin is the guy you got to watch out for. That may be someone that's going under the radar when we're thinking about, we need an edge rusher. Watch out for Jalen. He may get some time there, and I would definitely be okay with that. But we know Jalen is one of those guys that has the ability to pass cover. With him continuing to get comfortable in this defense and what his responsibilities are, that just adds to it. And he says, hey, it's great to have all of these guys that, you can rely upon. And it is. It's great to have depth because last year shows you need depth. Jamie Collins is almost like a coach. That's kind of what I took away from it. Collins is kind of like a coach on the field. They want to get everybody reps because it's a weird offseason, but he's kind of like a coach, right? He can talk to him, discuss things with him defensively. Do you think this will work? Do you think this will not work? And then he can go talk to the young guys about it. So even if Jamie's not on the field, he's basically a coach coach for the Lions, which is huge. This is why JB was such a great move, because not only is he one of the best linebackers in the league, and he's the best coverage linebacker, and we definitely needed this, he's also great as a leader, as a mentor, and a player. And that's kind of like Chase Daniel offensively. And for the quarterbacks, for the linebacker group is Jamie Collins. And we haven't had that in years. That's why Jamie Collins is so great. And we have these at every position. It's beautiful. The vibes felt different when he talked about today and how the day went.
I really thought it was a really competitive day, which was, very pleasing for me.
It was a very competitive day. They look at it saying 4 weeks, we're about to be out there, so we got to get scheming, get everything going quickly. But he was very pleased with how everything went. He felt like everybody was out there being very competitive. Everybody was trying to learn.
Off the field, and we got to do everything at a high level. We don't have a lot of time to redo anything. And I thought they just totally responded to that. So first, that was good to see on my end. I thought the guys were trying to transition and hustle from drill to drill, and then really try to be competitive in those drills. We've got a lot of great tape that we've got to get corrected, and certainly fundamentals, we've got a long way to go. I could probably still be out there for another 6 hours just working on fundamentals, pad level and hand placement and footwork. But I was excited just to see guys trying to do it right.
Do everything the right way. There's definitely still fundamentals and things like that you could always work on, but everybody's trying to learn, everybody's trying to fit into this defense, everybody's trying to figure it out, and that's great. Yes, the vibes do feel different. It's not just you, Jay, it does. And I think a lot of it does come down with the personnel. And once you get all these people to buy in and believe the same thing, big things can happen. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you, Prime, for watching, and I'm out.